We're in for a wild night.
Welcome everyone to episode 106 of Born to be Wild, a Wild exclusive Hearthstone podcast where we have fun hanging out with friends, talking about the Wild format of Hearthstone and spotlighting members of the Wild community. I'm your host, as always, Nate Wolf. It is great to be back on a super duper rainy spring evening here in Portland, Oregon. But I'm very excited to be back here tonight with some great friends. Super quickly talk about my week. I hit Legend. I ended up getting that. Hooray! Hooray! So I ended up finishing out the season at rank 301 when the clocks reset, and I got that 11x bonus, which was great. Now I was all bent out of shape because it you get separate bonus in standard and wild, and when I logged on, the alert box that I got goes, congratulations, you got 10x bonus, and I was like, excuse me, there's people at 4,000 plus legend, I'm at 300, how did I get a 10x? I was so angry. And someone was like, no, if you look on the screen, it actually you got the 11. Like it's small, like under your portrait it shows your star bonus when you're climbing ladder, but I didn't get the pop-up. I got the pop-up for standard because I'd hit standard legend as well. Anyways, so I copied Blutrane's homework over here, but hit day one with the fish rogue. Yeah. What's funny is that there's been posts all for like 2 weeks now of Slizzle, God bless him, posting a Nate Wolf TCG Fish Rogue deck, and it's not the one that I'm using anymore. And he hit legend with it, and so at least one other person tagged me in one, and I was like, hey, congrats, that's cool. I do think, well, we'll get into it, but anyways, that was, accomplishment, day one legend, which is very fun. It's such a rare occasion when the ladder resets on a Saturday night into Sunday morning, and so I don't have to work, and so like I can stay up and play. So I played from midnight until like 3 a.m. or something, and I hit D5, and then I went to bed and did the rest the next day, I guess, on Sunday, but it was the first. So it was cool. I got the achievement unlocked, 10 losses in a row. That was super great. Almost launched my computer out the window. But we'll get into that later, because that's kind of what prompted part of our conversation. Anyways, I wanted to share that, but we'll get into it later. I am joined by some very good friends of mine and a very special guest tonight. But first up, Hydralisk, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So glad to be here. Nice to see you guys. I can't remember if I mentioned this last week or not, but I thought I'd give an update anyway. Mini Hydra had surgery on Monday.
Yeah, is he doing all right?
Yeah, he's doing great. They kick you out of the hospital pretty quick these days. So we were only there for the day, and they like to free up the beds. So it's basically as soon as the general anesthetic had mostly worn off, they were like, go home.
Get out of here.
Wow. Here's your wheelchair.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we were off, and then they gave us the prescription stuff for the next few days, your standard like painkiller, anti-inflammatory stuff, all that. And yeah, he was fine. He was back to normal pretty quick. He got to take some days off school and play video games, so he was pretty okay with that.
I'm sure he was. Yeah, it's any excuse. I mean, gosh, I shouldn't say it, but it happened to me. I was sick, not last. I guess it was last week, the first part of last week, and I was like, wow, I've got a bazillion hours of sick time that I never use. I'm just gonna call out. I was like, should I work from home? Forget that. Like, I'm just gonna watch Netflix all day, and it was great. And I came back to, oh, did you do that thing? I was like, nope, I was sick and I didn't work at home. It was so great.
Good for you.
It's so hard to not do that. It's so hard. I
actually considered, because I ended up staying home with him, and I considered like, I could bring my work laptop home, and I could try to get some work done. But really, why?
Yeah.
Right? Like I'll just use Blutrane knows we got these like 5 sick days they gave to us in Canada. Everyone gets like an extra 5 sick days depending on, even if you have whatever at your company, you get these 5 standard. So it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna take the time. Why not? And he was content to sit on, the couch watching TV. We watched shows together. We did stuff. So yeah, it was just chill.
Nice.
Yeah, and so he was just home for a little bit, and yeah, he's basically back to normal. I was really worried on Blutrane might remember this. Didn't get to finish my ladder climb, and I was afraid that I was gonna lose my 10x. I was like, no, and he was even last minute like, hey, deadline's coming, let's go. And I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who weren't there, like we played games on stream last weekend, and I think we finished at like Diamond 3 or something. Like it was really close.
And I think the record was at that point 17-2 or 17-3 or something like that.
It was pretty
gnarly. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. It held up, and I still retained the 10x. So I guess
nice.
win rates really matter.
God,
so
I hope not, because I got Legend with a 52%.
All about that background MMR.
Well, win rate matters, but keep in mind that also whom you're winning and losing against also matters as well. So, I mean, not to take away your 17-2 Hydra, but, it might balance out that you had a slightly reduced win rate on your climb, Nate, but keep in mind the quality of your opponents were probably generally higher.
I will say,
if you had 11x opponents and I had 10x opponents, it could be.
Well, and I've noticed also when you, like every once in a while you queue into a big name, I'll queue into, into NHL or Memnarch or Mentalistic or whoever it is, and like if you win, like the bump that you get is a little better. Or it can be, I should say, which is interesting. It's like, I don't know. I do think I freaked out because I came in at 36, and I was like, oh wow, this is rad. And then the next day it's like, oh, 46, 56, 76. I was like, oh man, I skipped a nice number, and I was like, wow, this is going so fast. This is crazy. I'm gonna have to really, climb a ton. And then it kind of stopped right around 100, and that's where I've been floating for the last few days. So we'll see. Maybe I'll go for standard again, but it started moving really fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, so Diablo, huh?
Yeah, I ended up the last like 2 days, I guess, I realized to me it just didn't seem advertised enough. I've been waiting for the launch of the actual ladder on Diablo 2 Resurrected.
Oh yeah, the seasons, right?
Yeah, the actual season. So season 1 started last week, and I just didn't realize it. I mean, we were playing Hearthstone like Friday night, and then little Saturday, and then I saw something on Twitter. People are already like, there was some race going on the weekend where people were already in level 90 by the time I looked at it. Like,
whoa,
Mr. Llama SC, if you know who that guy is, he's crazy good. He's like number 2 right now. He's already level 96, but he's a full-time streamer. The season's only been out for a few days at this point, like 4 days, 5 days, something like that. But I hopped on 2 days ago, I think it was, and I've made it to level 75 in like 2 days.
Solid.
So
Uther gets
that's yeah, and I made a paladin, and my name is Uther Gets It.
It's so great.
So, if anybody gets that reference.
doesn't get it.
It was so funny because I was just gonna pick Uther as my name, and it was like, oh, name's taken. And then I looked through my characters, and it was taken by me. I already have an Uther. Because I tried to secure a few things right away, and Uther was one of them. And so this time I'm like, oh, what can I do? Uther Gets It.
It's so funny.
So,
it's very on brand. I like that.
Yeah. So that's basically been my week up to this point.
Cool. It's great to see you. And welcome back, Electric Sheep City. It's been a couple weeks. Happy Well, we had you last week, right? But it was in a little bit of different format, I think. And now, are you moved now?
Yeah, I'm moved. So last week I was just in the Twitch chat for a little bit because I was in Amarillo actively moving. But now greetings from the Denver area. Like what?
Woo!
No longer like a Texas sheep. What? The moving thing. It happened.
That's great.
Exactly, Hearthstone brew.
Hey, I mean, not to get political, but I feel like you got out of Texas at a pretty good time. So, anyways,
For a lot of reasons, yeah.
yeah.
Are you apparently people sometimes struggle to adapt to the altitude because Denver's the mile high city? Are you struggling to adapt, or is that just some kind of myth that is like not really a thing?
So it's not a myth. It's definitely not a myth. So I have family. I call them family. I have like lifelong friends in the area here. So I've been up here a few times and know whenever you kind of get up to that altitude, just like start chugging water, like whoa. And I've got my fancy water here and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of counteracts it a lot. In general. So yeah, it helps at the very least. So definitely been counteracting that and all that good stuff too. While I've been moving and unpacking, you can't quite see, you know, I'm doing some creative camera work here for those watching.
It's a good
See
angle.
the boxes in this room. There are tons of them right there, but so while I've been unpacking and all that stuff, you know, I've been jamming actually a little bit more standard recently because I've been doing that final push in Demon Hunter and finally got there with the 1000 Demon Hunter wins.
Bam.
Another one.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that is my
Good job.
freeze frame.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little carried away with the soundboard over here. It's the vibe.
It's too fun not to.
You know, it really
Truly.
is. It really is. And I'm gonna revamp it too. I can't wait. I got a new program that I'm anxious to try out, but got busy doing other stuff. Anyways, so now you'd never have to switch portraits like ever again.
Yeah, I have the best Demon Hunter portrait ever. I had a THL match right before the show here, and just because I can now, I just put on all 1K hero portraits because I can actually do that thing now,
Nice.
which was great.
Cool. Congrats.
So
Very nice. Very nice.
that's been my life lately is moving and Demon Hunter. Let's go.
Let's go. Well, congrats. I'm happy to have you back. I'm jealous of your Demon Hunter skin. I think you've been playing, and I'm like 775 or something like that, 750, right around there. And it's just a lot. I tried playing that new aggro deck, and I don't like it. It's fine, but I'm really struggling to.
Drekthar Simulator 5000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
but
the White Delight one?
No,
That-
in standard, it's just the new hotness. But like, I never know when to go face and when to trade and when to control. It's like, oh, I mean, I'm clearly playing it wrong, but like, I don't enjoy it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen to the song, Nate. The song will explain what you should be doing. But that's the thing. Like, you don't even
Can you
have to
trade?
make that decision with the deck
Nope.
because you've got that weapon that lets you trade and go face at the same time, which is so obnoxious.
That's true. That's true.
But
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah, Drekthar Simulator 5000.
Well, yeah. Well, just we'll wait and see what happens if Drek ends up getting nerfed and everyone cough all of you that bought the diamond portrait. Will get to see whether or not we get any sort of refund.
Mm.
I'm just glad I used gold instead of real monies on that one.
Hey, I
So
might get my 300 Canadian back that it cost me.
So yeah, I did the math, and in Canada, it was much more economic to actually buy it for the amount they were charging in CAD versus 3,000 gold, because 3,000 gold is way more expensive than they were charging. So I paid for it in cash, like a Dumby. But I think they should nerf the card. There was a big debate on Twitter actually about should they or shouldn't they. Not because people bought the card, just on the merits of it. And I've heard Drekthar described as New Barnes or Call to Arms on a stick. I've been playing a
Call
little
to
bit of
Barnes?
standard.
Call to
also.
Barnes.
Call to Barnes.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It is frustrating to play against. You know, you're in a relatively good position. You got the Demon Hunter on the ropes. Boom, Drekthar on 4. It's just like, oh, it just feels bad. But I mean, I can't imagine they're going to leave things in the state that it's in for too long. I mean, the VS report kind of really showed what a huge discrepancy there was in terms of win rate and matchup spread, and they usually take action, especially in standard, when you start to see that kind of variation. But so I think you'll get your wish, Nate. We'll see. Honestly, I bought it just to have the collectible. So if we get something like in addition for it, I kind of think
Hey, you know what?
little bonus, you know?
Yeah.
Same.
Well, yeah, whatever happens, happens. I mean, I wasn't gonna not get it because you never know. It's like if you'll be able to get it later. They kind of play fast and loose with that stuff. They were doing like catch up card backs every month for a long time, and then they just stopped again. And so it's you kind of never know.
So they stopped because they just dumped them all, right?
I don't know. Well, that's the other problem, I guess, is because I have them all, or most of them, that like maybe I'm just not seeing them. Like if you own the thing, it's not going to show up in the store. So I don't know. Anyhow, I guess before we go too far down a Drekthar rabbit hole over here, let me welcome our special guest, Blutrane, one of my great friends. I'm really happy to have you on the show. So welcome back. Welcome back. It's great to have you. How you been?
Likewise, it's great to be here, especially after Sheep's extended absence. So it's nice to be back on the Sheep reunion show.
Yeah,
Good. It's been an eventful week in Hearthstone. We had the ladder reset. And right before the ladder reset, what I generally like to do is I like to experiment a little bit on my EU account to try and see what's working, what isn't, because it's a little bit lower stakes than NA.
So wait, sorry, let me interrupt you. So ladder resets earlier, right? Because of time zones? Is that how that works?
Yeah, so ladder will reset. It's about 4:00 in the afternoon. So it resets Saturday night, so it would have reset for me on Saturday at 4. But I didn't do my EU climb in April, so I actually did that the week prior, right? So prior to the Saturday, I played a lot of Mech Mage on EU, trying to find an optimal build that would line up into the meta pretty well. And I stumbled upon what I like in the 30. I'm not sure it's the optimal 30. But Raffle seemed to agree with the 30 that I selected. And I got the rare Raffle bump.
Hey, that's
really awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say that's something special right there.
Oh yeah.
That's super cool. And I don't know. I love it. Hey, congrats. That's great.
Props.
So yeah, so we had the Raffle bump, so some Mech Mage, and then when I started playing on EU Saturday afternoon after they reset, the rogue lists were starting to refine, and I low rolled a little bit, and I wasn't maybe having as good a time with the deck as I was, and so I just jumped on the rogue bandwagon, and like you, Nate, I did the day one legend. I didn't quite stay up as late as you. I started midnight on Saturday. Went for about 2 hours. Finished around Platinum 5, I think it was about. Went to sleep around 2. I actually watched. I watched you in the iPad in bed because I couldn't sleep because I was so wound up from the climb. So I watched you for a good hour for your last hour. And then I finished the climb in the morning. Had a pretty breezy climb.
Was I raging?
No?
I'm kind of this is a skill that I learned through work, is to like inner rage, right? And but to not but to not
keep
show
that
it, right?
anger deep inside. Never let it out.
Well, yeah. And so, but like, yeah, I mean, I lost 10 in a row. The problem with streaming at night, we were chatting about this the other night, is like, I mean, I'm kind of a night owl, and so streaming at like 9 o'clock p.m. or something, like, that's fine. And I can go until midnight, no problem. And then what happens is, like, it's now all of a sudden like daytime in the EU, and people start watching, and then no one else is playing in NA, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm like ready to go to bed. You know, it's midnight, it's 1 a.m., it's, you know, getting into maybe 2 a.m. or something, like, I really need to go. And then you'll get some giant raid from somebody because nobody's watching, or like nobody's playing, right? And like the trick is, when you stream wild content, like in the brackets, you put wild in front of your stream info so that people know that you're playing it, because if you're looking for that format, it helps you wade through all of the battlegrounds and the, you know, whatever else. And like you get a raid, and it's like, well, can't stop now, I guess. And then my brain stops working, you know. You get like, you go for, like, I don't sleep enough anyways, and then, you know, I'm playing and I'm raging and trying not to show it, and I'm half asleep, and it's the middle of the night, and like, I just start playing poorly. So
no,
you
you hide it pretty well. Now, I, on the other hand, do not.
you're raging like a
just,
true champion.
I'm a volcano. I wouldn't watch me stream.
You know what? As much as you do end up doing that, I still love your streams, Blutrane. I do.
I kind of felt bad, and I kind of was laughing and kind of felt bad at the same time. But like, you're so angry, and but like,
yeah.
I mean, I felt the same way. I just
don't bottle it up. I mean, I struggle with the variance in the game.
Well,
I take
doesn't
too
want to
much
wake up
of
his child.
Oh, that's probably, I don't have children, and the way that my condo is structured, like, even though my wife's in the other room, like, the sound doesn't travel. So
that's
like,
why,
you know,
my hair is gray and yours is not. I think it's all the
well, mine's
bottled
pretty
up,
gray. It's the curtain that kind of hides it, but yeah, it's pretty gray. You can see it here as well. But no, I mean, it's whatever. I get angry. It's just,
you know
it's
what,
the variance, and you know, I mean, it's what it is. I am who I am.
Hey, that's
can't help it.
I will say, rank 15 legend coming in is incredible. That must feel good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was early. It dropped pretty quickly, but yeah, it was nice to see the number, even if it was for a fleeting moment.
Still, I absolutely love your emotes, like or emojis or whatever, when you post yours with your kind of hot takes. Like, it's so natural. You do such a good job, and I like the feels here. So you're so 28 to 21, 57% win rate from bronze 10 to legend. Lasagna suggested swapping Evis for captain. Lasagna smart. That is true. I saw Alb running it as well. Nothing
for those
feels...
who don't know, Lasagna is like a Masters Tour competitor, like triple rank 1 wild finisher. Lasagna brings the goods. Probably one of the most consistent players in our community.
Oh, 100%. And I saw, I think, Alb over in EU who won the Wild Open ages ago, hit early with this and said, hey, captain is good in this.
I didn't realize that he played this. I saw his tweet after, but yeah, he played this 30 as well. Interestingly enough, and we'll cover this later, it's possible that Eviscerate might be better than captain, but I think that the context is really important. When and you can kind of see it in the screen cap, almost 45% rogue. Captain's really good in the mirror. Eviscerate might be better in other matchup spreads. So there's a lot of context to qualitatively kind of inform what to select. And for the climb that day, Captain definitely outperformed Eviscerate or any of the other cards that maybe you'd want to slot in there. So
what were you? Mine was 38% rogue. What was yours at? 40, 42?
It's like 40 something, 43.
Good
Yeah.
lord.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
brutal.
We're approaching what was it, Warlock numbers from
Mhm.
Dark
It
Lair.
dropped
Uh-huh.
quickly, and I noted that nothing felt unfavored except for even lock. And I would make a slight amendment on this. I do not like queuing into Druid. The thing was, that day there were no Druids that I was queuing into, and I mean, not having to deal with Oaken summons is good. Turns out also Big Priest is not a great deck to queue into with this as well. I saw Swagwar's tweet. He was like kind of malding a little bit, saying, "Where did all the Big Priests come from?" So I told him he could thank White Delight for that, because that's what White Delight did his
Yep.
climb with. So there are ways to counter, but there are also ways that you can tech, and so you're starting to see people include other cards like, you know, the
Such
new
kindness is rare.
the mass silence, and you know, whatever else. So yeah, it's there's a lot of
More to
options.
be
Sorry.
wild.
Let me mute those.
Forget to
Sorry.
turn off the stand board. That's
Yeah,
all right.
no. I have there. Thank you. Somebody. We just got a raid and somebody followed. Thank you, guys. I normally we're recording a podcast. Usually I turn that stuff off when we're recording, and I forgot to do it. So whoopsies. But thank you. I appreciate it. And now back to your regularly scheduled Wild Hearthstone
Back to
podcast.
my nonsensical rambling. So that was wild, and so I've been playing a little bit of standard. And I've been playing Mech Mage and Standard and Naga Mage. I like the mechs. I think that, like, you know, it's funny. You look at the cards when they're announced, and you think you know what your favorite's going to be. But my favorite card this expansion by far is Mecha Shark. I just like playing Shark. I just like playing the Shark with a bunch of like discounted mechs and watching the missiles, like, you know, fly around and blow things up.
It's the new Flame Waker. There's got to be a pun there somewhere. Haven't found it yet.
Fenwaker?
That's pretty good.
So been doing that, and been experiencing the joys of queuing into non-stop Drekthar on 4 Demon Hunters and Control Warriors. So that's been, but I don't get as angry playing Standard, because like I don't care.
It feels like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like it's table
like,
stakes. You know, like, but you think like, what does it matter in Wild? It's all in your head, right? It's all the mental game, and I don't I don't do too well with that. I will say I enjoy Hearthstone a lot more when I'm not really focused on the outcomes. That's probably something to try and focus on, which is much easier said than done.
Yeah.
See, that's my secret. I never
just
care about the outcome.
Well,
Yeah,
you're a bigger man than I.
He's like, oh wait, it's my turn.
I'll tell you what I haven't been.
I wrote.
For those
game mode,
Stuff on a rope.
Well, yeah, for those of you listening to the audio version, Hydra's over here miming a bathtub Hearthstone. So.
Yeah.
And the game mode I haven't been playing is Mercenaries, because there's this card called Trigor the Lasher. And I know this is a Wild focused broadcast, but if anyone from Blizzard is listening, which I know sometimes they do, Trigor the Lasher, bad. I wish I had 4 thumbs so I could give Trigor the Lasher 4 thumbs down. It's just I don't know. I won't get into it, but it's not fun to play because you don't have a lot of agency over it, and then it's really annoying to play against for the same reason. Yeah. So it kind of just makes every game a fiesta, and it's so strong that you have to run it, and it's kind of silly. But there is hope on the horizon, so I'll leave that for when we cover the news.
Yeah.
The Fighting Pit podcast did a really good breakdown of just how and why Trigor is problematic, to say the least. So if you want to hear more about Mercenaries content, and in particular the problematic nature of Trigor, check out the Fighting Pit podcast.
Oh,
none of us are on it. It's just good.
Oh yeah,
highly recommended.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Yeah, yes. Big fan of zombies, especially. It's wonderful. So, All right. Well, that was fun. You know, we this is a bunch of friends playing catch up. It's great. We're 30 minutes in and we're just finishing up our intros. It's so funny. But
Hi.
Hey.
Oh dear. Yeah, anyways, let's get into the stuff. We do have a couple quick housekeeping matters.
Yeah. So for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. Let me briefly explain how the show works. We record this podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs, and the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all podcast apps. However you're watching or listening or absorbing via osmosis this podcast today, thank you. Yes. You.
It's so great. Thank you all. Yes, very much. I really appreciate, everyone that watches and listens and checks out the show. Means the world to us. And so, yeah, real quick before we get into the main topic of the show, say a quick but very important thank you to Shokunin, who is the executive producer of our show. It's a big friend and big supporter, and to our other patrons. Your support means the world to us, and any money that we get, we just put straight back into the show. So I wanted to say a big thank you. If you're somebody who wants to support the show at all, there's a couple real quick ways that you can do that. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a subscribe or a like or a comment, and that helps with the algorithms and stuff to get other people to find us. If you're listening to the audio version of this on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or whatever, you can leave if you leave a review or something, that also helps people find us. Finally, if you're watching live on Twitch, we do have some cool emotes. I've got them up on the screen right now that you can unlock by subscribing. This is free if you have Amazon Prime, and there's, I think, a couple that are available for free as well if you just follow. Working with our artist to do a couple more, actually, we unlocked some more slots, and so was chatting with her this week, and she's available to do more work for us, which is always fun. And she made a side project for Hydra, which is super cool. She's just an incredible artist, and so really great. Anyways, finally, last little bit. If you are interested in supporting the show financially, we do have a Patreon for as little as $1 a month. That if you're interested in supporting the show, any of the links to any of that stuff can be found on our website, which is borntobewildhs.com. If you scroll all the way down the bottom of the page, there's links to all of our stuff, whether it's YouTube and all the different podcast platforms and Patreon and all that stuff. Finally, if you're interested in interacting with any of us personally, the easiest way to do that is by joining our Discord. If you're not familiar, Discord is it's like an online, God, I don't even know what you would call it anymore. It's almost like a forum type thing, but program, and it's got a bunch of people in there, friends that we've made all across the world, and talk about Hearthstone, talk about news, events, real life, sometimes deck lists, and all kinds of stuff. But it's really fun, and we made a bunch of friends there, and we'd love for you to join us. Links again are on our website, borntobewildhs.com. So yeah, see you there. Anyways, oh yeah, we haven't been talking about the listener series lately. I was getting ready to just jump into the main show topic, but we are getting back to that listener series, aren't we? So This is something we've been working on behind the scenes for a while. So so we're doing something different this time around, which will be quite fun. I think it's a little bit of an experiment, but I think it will be fun. I'm gonna play a real quick video here. It's only a minute and a half, but we've got a quick announcement video here. So I'm just gonna take over the screen momentarily, and you know what? I'm gonna make it real big. Sorry, everyone, but they're gonna watch me for a minute. Just make it gigantic over here. All right, here we go. Hello everyone, Nate Wolf here from Born to Be Wild, a Wild exclusive Hearthstone podcast. I'm here today with a special announcement. Signups are now open for Season 5 of the Born to Be Wild Listener Series. For those of you unfamiliar, the Born to Be Wild Listener Series is a Hearthstone Wild format tournament series with special deck building restrictions each week. Each season consists of 5 weeks of regular competition followed by 3 weeks of playoffs. I'm so excited to announce that this time we're doing something bigger and better than we've ever done before. This season has a theme. The Might of the Naga. The season also has a story. Each week tells part of the tale behind Queen Ajara, the Naga, and the rise and fall of Zinashari, as well as other key lore elements. What's more, each week has 2 deck building restrictions, one that's thematic to coincide with the lore, and the other, well, to keep things spicy. For more information, check out our website at borntobewildhs.com and click on the Listener Series page. Signups are open until Saturday, May 14th. The series is absolutely free to participate in, and there will be prizes for the top 4. For those of you who want to watch the action unfold but don't want to play, we'll be casting a match each week on Friday evenings right after the podcast at approximately 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs and posting the HD VODs to YouTube so you don't have to worry about missing a thing. We hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching. Ayo!
Beep. So cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. This should be a lot of fun. And so, yeah, something a little bit different. I think we lost you, Sheep, if you're there. Or maybe your camera's just dark. Anyways.
He went off to grab some water.
Oh, copy that. Well, I will keep talking then. So, yeah, so here's what's new. In the past, we were just doing, listener series. We had challenges. We've always crowdsourced kind of some of the challenge ideas. But we've spent so much time lately covering lore that it was like, well, could we tie the two together? And so rather than doing one challenge, each week has got 2 challenges. And so we've got it set up with little snippets of the lore. And then challenge 1 is related to the lore aspect of it. And then challenge 2 is, a separate challenge, and they kind of tie together. But super fun idea. We'll see how it all plays out. One of the things that we did behind the scenes is for each of the little lore snippets for each week, Goliath recorded in his most epic voice the little segments, reading them, and so we'll incorporate those into the weekly matches. But they're so good. I asked him if he would be willing to record them, and he said yes. They turn out so good, and he does that like if you've ever played Warcraft or Warcraft 2, you hear the the announcer between the missions.
Yeah.
He does that epic voice very deep and very inflective or whatever. It's so good. I'm not just saying that because he's in chat, but they're great. And so I to see what it would sound like I put him to some music and sound effects, and I was like, oh, it's so epic.
You know what? I didn't think of that comparison to like playing Warcraft 2, because it's exactly what it is. Like, the orcs and the humans are now at unrest, and the orcs are now moving in on their territory. And it's like exactly with the music and stuff, and he's exactly doing.
It's so good. It's so good. Like
that. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm excited. And so a lot going into it on the production end. It'll be a lot of fun. And so if anybody's interested in checking this out, the signups are live right now. If you go to our website, borntobewildhs.com, click on the listener series page, all of the rules are there. The signups are there. It is absolutely free to participate in. If you scroll down, there's all the tournament rules. It's pretty straightforward. All of the challenges for all weeks are already live. So if you want to start building decks, we tried really hard to both make the challenges like thematic, but also not too restrictive, because we want people to be able to participate without feeling like you have to own the entire collection. And so I feel like we did a pretty good job. I mean, I'm a little biased maybe, but had a lot of help, a lot of other pairs of eyes taking a look. And so big thank you, of course, to Hydra Sheep, but also to Goliath and to Schmoopy Daddy and to Blutrane and to NHL for kind of taking a look at some of this stuff and going through and getting some sneak peeks and opinions and stuff ahead of time to try to make this something a little bit different and new, fun that we haven't done before. And so I'm very excited. And so y'all are in for a treat. I cannot wait to be able to start casting these matches and stuff too with some fun new stuff. And so
I'm really glad to see the vision that you had in the beginning, Nate, come together. Because when you first approached us with it, you're like, hey, this is crazy, but I think maybe this can work. I wanted to have it like lore themed, and we're like, all right, and then but all like,
Sorry, you want to do what now?
yeah, but all like with the help of
doesn't get it.
okay, but the way that it came together with everyone's help, and Schmoopy did a great job of like throwing a bunch of like base challenges together that we could work off, and all of the suggestions that we have from everybody in the Discord all comes together, and of course Goliath, right, with the actual lore knowledge, seeing it all come to life is really neat.
It's been fun, and by the time, like, I had done a bunch of homework on the lore for the past lore episode, and that's kind of what got like the idea sparked. And then it was like, well, I had a nice long chat with Goliath a while back trying to see, is this crazy or could it work? And he's like, I think it could work actually. And by the time I put it all together, I was able to come up with like kind of the base challenges, like, or a very, I want to say like simple challenge that would kind of fit the theme. The old gods slumbered beneath the earth's surface where they lay dormant. Oh, let's put some dormant cards in. Well, the dormant cards suck. Well, okay, then we just won't make them put too many in. But it fits the theme, right? But by the time I had gone through and found each kind of like primary challenge that syncs up with the lore, my brain was just like mush, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I can't think of it. I'm through here. And then big credit, I think Sheep has been in moving across country for the past 2 weeks, and Schmoopy really swooped in and helped quite a bit, and I really appreciate that. With sure. We've crowdsourced a lot of the challenges each week from our listener series Discord, where folks have posted challenge ideas, and so Schmoopy did a great job of combing through those and see, hey, where could we apply those, and how can we tweak them to kind of fit. And so 2 separate challenges each week is definitely something new, but I think it's doable. And actually, I kind of think that we're being less restrictive this time around. With some feedback that we had got last time was that, well, if you get too specific or too restrictive, then it's just this pile of cards versus that pile of cards, and which is not that great. And so I think this will actually
is better though.
I'm sure it probably is. But I think this will work, and if this works, it's like, oh well, maybe we can keep doing this. It kind of just depends. I was really irked because they announced their Battlegrounds. We'll get into the news in 2 seconds, but they announced their Battlegrounds thing like last night, and they're like, the rise of the Naga. I was like, they stole our name. And the funny thing is, like, I talked, nobody told me, and I had talked to, I'd reached out to Arclight, and I was talking to Arbor because this is a tournament, and we put so much time and energy and effort into the production that, like, I don't want to, historically, if you run a tournament, you're supposed to get a license for it. And so I wanted to make sure that we did that thing. And the website is like, yeah, you need this license, and here's all the rules, and here's all the legal stuff. And I read it all. I was like, all right, cool. This all applies. We're good. Oh, where's the license? Oh, it's not here. Well, let me email. The email has an auto response. It says, all right, well, we're not going to respond to this. You need to go fill out the license first. I'm like, there's no license. And I was kind of freaking out, but I chatted briefly with Arbor, and we got the official green light from Blizzard to do this thing. And so I have zero concerns about that. And I'm excited. I think this is going to be fun, and we'll see how it goes. I'm also pleased, our little core group of OGs that signed up sight unseen before any of this was revealed. So anyways, we would love it if people participated. If you're interested, it's pretty low key, but my favorite part of this all is being able to cast the matches each week. So we'll try to do a highlight match each week after the show, and then we post them to YouTube and stuff. And so if you miss one, you can come back and watch it later. Should be fun. And it's been fun. Like Hydra said, this started as like this little idea that has kind of like snowballed and is actually turning into a real thing. So I'm very excited to see how it all plays out.
Excitement abounds.
Yes.
Yeah. Trying to think, is there anything I missed? I don't know. I feel like I've been rambling, but
So the only thing I can think of, and you mentioned it in the announcement video, but we haven't kind of reiterated it since. We have prizes again,
Yes.
which we haven't had for a little while. So first place gets a 60-pack bundle. Second place gets, I just had it up and then I lost it. My bad.
I think it's the 40. It's whatever bundles
40.
are.
Yeah, and then third and fourth get 15-pack bundles. So there's actual like rewards again. So, yeah, it's low key, it's for fun, but also, you could win a few packs as well. So if you're interested in, of course, having fun, playing some different, it's a very different meta every week. If you're tired of the wild meta, jump on in to the Born to Be Wild listener series there. And hey, you might win a few packs. But the real reward are the friends we make along the way.
Oh,
those 60 packs is a pretty chonky reward. So
hey, it's bet. I didn't want to we don't want to give away cash, or it's anything like that. This is a lot easier and cleaner, and it could be any packs too. It doesn't matter as long as we can gift them. I think some of the real old packs, I don't think you can. Someone wanted GVG packs one time, and it was like you can't gift them in the BattleNet store for whatever reason. But most of the things that you can. So there's lots more information about this if you're interested at all. Signups are open for another week. Well, it's a week and a day from when we're recording this, and so about a week from the time that this recording gets posted on YouTube and the podcast apps and stuff. But yeah, it's all free. Easiest way to get the info, go to the website, borntobewildhs.com, click on listener series. There's all the rules. It's all pretty straightforward. Sign up's free. To play is free. I don't know. It's really not very complicated. Sheep has done so much work on the back end to automate. Everything is done via Google Sheets. And it's super cool. I mean, it shows the deck lists and the win rates or the what do you call
Results.
Yeah, the results. Oh, and the
bands.
standings and stuff as well.
Yeah.
And so it's very cool. We've come a long way since we first began. I will say that, and it's a blast. So, anyways, one last thing I do want to say is that what we saw the first time we had this giant prize pool of donated money, which was cool, but I think what had happened was people would show up to week one, and if they didn't win, they were just dropping out. Because it was like, oh, well, I'm not going to win. So two things on that. Number one, please don't do that. But if you lose week one, like the way that this tournament series works is that points are cumulative, meaning they add up across the season. And so if you win 3-0, you get 5 points. If you win 3-1, 3-2, whatever it is, like there's a point system. And so we've got people that make it to the playoffs who have lost,
multiple games,
multiple times throughout the way. And so you just never know. The whole point of this is to play off meta stuff and have fun. But I do think it's important to note that, you lose a match or two, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to play or that you're not still in line to make it further in the competition. So,
yeah. Well, and to kind of and that, a quality loss you still get points for, right? So if you lose a match 3-2, you get 2 points for that. Whereas if you win a match 3-2, you only get 3 points for that. So that line there, really means that while yes, match wins are good, the more games you win, the better you do. But also a match loss does not disqualify you whatsoever, because it can definitely be made up for. A quality loss is a really quality loss, and a really quality win, 3-0, get you a lot of points that way too. We've had multiple winners of the entire shebang who did not, in fact, win, like, for example, week 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a perfect example. Jules. Okay. I versed Jules, I think it was week 1 last season, and I won, and Jules lost. Who got first place?
That would be
Won the
Jules.
entire thing. Jules won. Yeah. So
I will say it's pretty.
there you go.
It's pretty.
Don't drop
low-key.
out. You can win.
The scheduling is similar to THL, if you're familiar with that. You play 1 match per week. That's what it amounts to. You basically connect with your opponent via Discord or whatever. You find a time to play, and then you report the results. We'll typically find a volunteer to cast their match after the podcast, but everyone else will kind of do it on their own time. And it's 1 match a week. And then after the first 5 weeks, all the points are tallied up, and then folks are invited to the playoffs based on scores. And then the final thing is that the matchups are based on win rate, and so typically you'll be facing off against an opponent who has the same or very similar win rate as you. And so we have our own kind of MMR based system over here, but it's worked out really well, so that the goal is that you're kind of equally matched.
So to yes and that, the way that we do that that matchmaking really actually adds to that every week really kind of having a shot, because the people who have a lot of points are facing off against other people with a lot of points, so they don't just continue spiraling out of control.
It's better than if I'm maybe a newer player, then and I'm going up against Corbett or whoever, I mean it's I don't know what the right word is, maybe a little bit more fair, or I feel like the matchup system is really well done. We put a lot of time and thought and effort into it, and had some great players. So yeah, season 1 winner was Shia Wasina. Season 2 was Corbett won season 2. Jordan MG won season 3, and Jules won season 4. So we've got some really great players. It's been a lot of fun, and so I'm excited to see how this all shakes out. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on it because we got a lot to talk about tonight, but all the information is on the website, borntobewildhs.com. You just up there at the menu, just click listener series. It's all there, and there's not a lot of information. It's all pretty straightforward. If you have any questions, reach out to us on Discord is the easiest way, and we'll be happy to answer questions or whatever. But there's about a week to sign up, and so if you're interested or if you got questions, ask them quickly. But
yeah, so thank y'all for listening to us talk about the listeners series. Hydra, what's been going on in the news this week?
We got a few things. Unfortunately, we don't have any real wild news, but we spoke about it earlier with, Blizzard stealing our thunder on a name for something. But yeah, so there's a BG's update. Prepare for Rise of the Naga. That's coming in soon. So basically the idea is they're introducing Nagas into Battlegrounds. And they work on a spell synergy, and that means that we're going to need some more spells. So there's a new type of card called Spellcraft that kind of gets created when you're using these. It's a keyword, and then these cards that you have are going to produce some spells that give you this spell synergy to work with your Nagas. And we also are going to have a new hero for Battlegrounds, Queen Ajara, which looks pretty cool. I don't play a lot of BGs, but for anybody that does, it's always really fun when they introduce a new minion type and a new hero. It's just something to experiment with. So it's always a blast when that happens. And we also have
just before you move on, Hydra.
Yeah.
Two things about this Battlegrounds update that I think are worth mentioning is that buddies are officially going away.
RIP.
Some
Buddy,
people
bye.
loved the buddies, others hated them. For those who don't play Battlegrounds, someone described it to me once that buddies are like the quest equivalent of Battlegrounds. But the
Okay.
biggest piece of news about this update, and I was raging about this yesterday, is that Amalgadon is going away.
Yeah.
May you find no peace in the afterlife.
We're getting
Amalgadon.
Amalgadon's
But
big brother.
we are getting Amalgam back.
That's okay. Amalgadon was
I agree.
so dumb. So I'm happy to see that gone. Buddies, I don't know. I think most people are happy that they're going away. So yeah, looking forward to the update. Been known to rock a few battlegrounds, to pass some time.
Same.
Everybody does seem pretty happy about that change.
Everybody. Oh my goodness. Hey, so we have a tweet us, delete us over here.
Yeah, I guess announced a little too early. Maybe the details weren't finalized, but Hearthstone did drop a tweet that there's going to be an Azoth Mercenaries event, and then it disappeared. But thankfully, there's things called like Snipping Tool. So people, captured that, and so that happened. So it sort of leads us to think that they're doing an Azoth theme thing, which kind of goes along with the lore that we've already talked about with Goliath, right?
We've been predicting it since day one that N'Zoth has to fit into this set somehow. I'm excited about N'Zoth and Mercenaries. What I'm really still hoping for is N'Zoth being in the mini set as our neutral, Colossus being a +6 that takes up the whole board. That is what I want. So
What you really, really want.
now tell me what I want. What I really, really want.
I want a cute. I want you have that cute N'Zoth skin in Battlegrounds. I want the Merc. I want one of the Merc skins to be cute N'Zoth, and then I'll chase after it like a maniac.
They have to do it because for everyone they put like the baby one or something, right?
Yeah. I like those, and hopefully, we don't know when I think zombies clicked the link, it didn't load the page because they didn't put up the page. But I am hoping, fingers crossed, that this comes with a balance update for Mercs. Trigor gotta go. Throw them in the trash with Amalgadon. They can go to the afterlife together.
That's great.
Yeah. So the link now is open, and it's just the Battlegrounds. Prepare for the Rise of the Naga thing, an announcement thing there at this point. So we shall see soon.
Nice.
Yep.
There's also a new Clash of Clans game coming out.
It's called Clash of Orcs and Humans. Okay. We got the announcement that there was going to be a new Warcraft mobile game, and that got announced on May 3rd, and they are calling it Warcraft Arclight Rumble. And so I didn't look super deep into this, but at first glance, it seems like a Clash Royale clone sort of game. I'm sure that they have their differences and whatnot. In some of the images, it looked like your peons were actually mining like for minerals and whatnot. And,
Work.
yeah. But nonetheless, I like pre-registered because you can.
I did as well, just to get in, but like I work has been so crazy this week that I have not had a chance to watch or really review any of it yet. But I mean, everything that they do is always polished, and so I'm stressed. Like I don't feel like I can spend money on another thing over here. But
they said no loot boxes, so I'll be very curious to see how it's monetized. So yeah,
Loot crates.
No, I don't know. It's gonna be less gacha, but it'll be interesting to see how it's monetized. I mean, I reserve judgment until it comes out. But yeah, I mean, people don't generally get excited for these types of games, but I mean, let's not forget Hearthstone too. is at its heart a mobile game, and we get excited over that. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
Good point.
That is
And
the way I primarily play it.
there you go, right? And I will say this was the proper way for Blizzard to announce a mobile game. Not like they did at BlizzCon when they announced Immortal, unfortunately, right?
What? Don't you have a phone?
You don't need
Yeah.
one anymore. They actually announced that you can play it on PC now.
Very
Hey.
happy about
Just
that.
just to segue on that for a second, I wasn't too excited about Diablo Immortal. Now I am, because they showed off some screenshots of the PC version, and they noted that it's a port from mobile, so everything's a little bit like bigger, a little bit more jumbo, and that's so awesome because I can see it. I don't see very well for those who don't know. So I'm actually looking forward to it, based on the fact that everything's gonna be like jumbo sized and easy to see. So fingers crossed that the monetization isn't insane for Immortal, but hopefully between one of these two games, we'll be able to pick one of them up.
I'm a big Diablo fan. I unfortunately am like, I mean, I've got an iPhone. It's not one of the jumbo ones, but like I really struggle to play Hearthstone on it. I mean, I it's fine to play like the Tavern Brawls or, you know, Battlegrounds or Mercs, but like if I'm trying to actually climb, I cannot play on my phone. I
Oh.
really struggle with it, and maybe it's
I
maybe
can't. I know Sheep can. I can't.
the you know what, the iPad is kind of perfect for me.
Yeah.
The iPad is just right, and that's typically what I'll use to like play in bed, play on the couch, or in the bathtub or whatever it is. But like, not the phone is just too small. Or maybe I'm just getting old.
I mean, I can't really play on phone either, but I like the tablet. So I mean, you know, we'll see. We don't have to wait too long for this one. It's like a month out. So
Nice.
Is it really?
yeah, June 2nd. So Nate, get her climb done on day 1,
Yes.
so that we can play this on day 2. Unfortunately, rank reset is on a Tuesday to Wednesday, so I don't think that's quite gonna happen. But
I just have to take a day off of work.
Nate's just gonna have to be sick again.
You know what? I accrue so much vacation time that I don't use. Like I actually wouldn't mind taking a day off for it. I don't use very much vacation time, and it was kind of funny because this, like, I didn't feel bad calling in sick those 2 days because number one, I was actually sick. Thank God it wasn't COVID. It was just a sore throat. But like, I haven't called in sick in 3 years. Like, I haven't got sick, and I don't do it. So I didn't feel bad about it, but I accrued time off pretty quickly.
Sounds like you feel pretty bad about it, Nate.
Keep having to justify it, Nate.
I'm a little bit of a workaholic, if you couldn't tell, but
Work.
yeah, exactly.
Well, that's basically it for the news. I'm sure we'll touch on these mobile games in the future, see how they're doing. But let's move into our main topic of the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna introduce this real quick, and then I will pass it off to Blutrane, who can really do this more justice than I can. But here's how this kind of came about, right? So we were playing with the fish rogue or swordfish rogue or whatever you want to call it. Last season, it's what I used to do my climb to get the 11x finish. And the deck is strong. And what I was feeling like towards the end of last season was that it's the deck is close to being solved, but not quite. And what version do I want to play? Here's kind of what I ended up with. And I didn't love it, but it felt kind of close. And I was climbing, and then I, like, no joke, 10 game, losing streak, and I just got all frustrated. And so I'd ask Blutrane, like, am I doing something wrong? I'm like, am I playing it wrong? And he spectated and watched, and we chatted a little bit. And he's like, well, I don't really think I would have done anything differently except running some bad cards in your deck. And so like, maybe you take the bad cards out and put the good cards in. And I was like, yeah, but I don't like Fellwing. It doesn't have pirate synergy. And I don't like this card because, or I like the amalgam because it generates, and he's like, well, let's look at what the data says. And I kid you not, I mean, the TLDR is, we looked at the data, pulled out the bad cards, put the good cards in, and my win rate skyrocketed. Like, no joke. I mean, you see this 10-game lose streak and then win. And I'm not saying that this is a magic solution, but especially when it was against so much of the rogue mirrors, like having the right cards in the deck made it feel a lot more consistent.
More optimized, yeah.
Or more optimized. And so where we're kind of going with the idea of this is, how can you do this? How does this work? And how does it work with Wild? And so there is a website called, for those of you not familiar, called HSReplay. They're the ones that do one of the major deck trackers. And their website is just full of statistics, decks with codes and win rates and decks to copy and paste, and there's a ton of data there. They do have a premium feature that costs, what is it? It's about $5 a month. It's cheaper if you pay for it in bulk, but there's a lot of data that's available for free. I've been called a shill enough times lately that I'm not concerned about shilling even more. But I think that
are you really a shill if you're the one paying money?
I'm not getting it for free, that's for sure. There's a lot of data.
Such a shill, Nate. Unbelievable.
I know.
Unbelievable.
Uther doesn't get it. So there's a ton of data that's available for free. If you pay the $5 a month or whatever, there's even more data that is available kind of on top of that all. But we're going to go through it a little bit and kind of do a dive. It's also different with Wild because it's all statistics based, and because Wild is played at a much lower rate than Standard, the way of accessing the data is there's a little bit of a different approach. Anyways, I'm not the expert in this. I don't really know much of what I'm talking about, except that I'm learning like the rest of you, and I brought Blutrane along to discuss this topic here.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and keep it pretty high level. Use this maybe as an introduction. I think that there's a lot more of a deep dive that one can make. And maybe before we start diving in, I'll start with a quote. And I wish this was like deeply prophetic and ancient, but it's not. It was a quote from the first season of Star Trek Discovery, but I thought it was very, very apt. And the quote is that universal laws for lackeys, context is for kings. And I think that we fall into this trap all too often where data says X, therefore I should take action Y.
Data wasn't in Discovery.
Oh.
Yeah, he's the next generation.
This fell apart rather quickly.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. But there are many factors that goes into interpreting the data, and so marrying a qualitative understanding of what it is that you're trying to do with it with some of the quantitative metrics that you get from HSReplay is what allows you to start informing those decisions. Now with Standard, you have a lot more data, so you can tilt a lot more heavily to that quantifiable outcome. In Wild, especially when a patch which we got recently came out, our data sample is going to be limited, but it gives us clues. And we'll look a little bit as to what those are. So why don't we pull up some HSReplay, and I can start talking about some of the assumptions, and then we can talk about some of the data. And to start with, we'll look at the quest rogue that not the quest rogue, the fish rogue, aggro rogue that you were referring to, Nate. I'll just give you a second for the screen to come up.
Yep,
and for those who are listening on the audio, I'll do my best to be as descriptive as I can.
I will say,
describe what's happening.
I say this every week. If you can watch the video version, you get a little bit more out of it. The show is very visual. We like to have things up on the screen while we talk about them. It helps everybody. And so right now what we're going to be doing is actually we've got the HSReplay website pulled up on the screen so that we can go through it together. And we can do our best to be descriptive, but you'll get more out of it if you want to watch the video portion of this.
So first things first is premium versus non-premium. And I'm not saying this as an endorsement, but the way that the website is set up to get meaningful data out of HSReplay for Wild, a subscription is essential. You will not get meaningful data with a subscription. You may get meaningful data with a subscription. So that's the first thing that I think that one needs to consider when using this resource. So right now I have the splash page up for HSReplay, and I have the class win rates on the screen, right? Where you see Rogue, 53%, Paladin, 52.1%, etc. Now, a lot of people cite this as a state of the meta. And I just want to say right now that it's kind of a fun metric, but actually doesn't tell us anything. Rogue has one viable deck. It's the best, one of the top, winning decks. So it's at the top, but what if Rogue had a bunch of other decks that weren't good? It would artificially pull it down. So I tend to not look at that. What I do tend to look at is at the top, you'll have meta, which is for standard only, decks, and cards. A lot of people will look at decks. For example, if I pull up the decks tab and filter by Rogue, I'll get a bunch of Rogue decks that include, Fish Rogue. But you'll notice here under games, there are not a lot of games. So if I filter by Diamond through Legend, which is kind of like the base that you'd want to filter by, the most played deck has 2,700 games since the balance patch came out, known as 23.03. That's not a lot of games. If you look at the standard equivalent, it is an order of magnitude more than that. So right away, I think the first place that I like to look at are the cards. So if we look at my screen here, what I have are cards by Rogue for the Wild game mode, latest patch, Diamond through Legend, and I've sorted it by deck win rate. Now, these aren't decks. These are just cards that make up the highest win rate decks within the Rogue class. But you can start to see that a lot of these cards make up the deck that we're kind of zeroing in on, aggro Fish Rogue. Now, and guys, if you have any questions or anything to add, please jump in. Don't be shy. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the particularities. So you'll notice that the highest win rate card is Buccaneer. But then you'll also notice that Buccaneer appears here as well. So the first thing is that HSReplay doesn't disambiguate, or rather it does disambiguate, the Grand Tournament Buccaneer from the core set Buccaneer. So that's why it appears twice. And you'll notice that you'll see times played for Grand Tournament Buccaneer is 3,500, and for core set Buccaneer is 35,000, 10 times more. So you could right away safely disregard the Buccaneer. I mean, it's a good card in the deck, but the variance associated with this is such that it's kind of immaterial. So that's the first thing that I just want to call out that people may not realize.
Oh wow!
The second card,
more people have actually played patches than the Grand Tournament Buccaneer for reference.
Well, so the thing is, if you want to include the TGT Buck in your deck, you have to explicitly filter by TGT and drag it in. And there are people who do that. I may be one of them. I have a gold TGT Buck. I want to focus on it, right?
So do I.
Exactly.
That makes sense then. That's what mine would be as well. So
yeah.
The next card is Spy Mistress, which doesn't see play in the deck. And you might be thinking, well, that card's really good, but it's only been played 340 times. Fun fact, I bet that it was Triple Lift that played that card 340 times in Odd Rogue, and that's why the card has such a high win rate. Not because Spy Mistress is good, not because Odd Rogue is good, but because Triple Lift can take any deck and play a bunch of games with it and do well. I know Otters also, like there were a few players of renown that were playing this, but the times played is an important piece of data that gives us context. So we can safely disregard the first two, which are aberrations because TGT and because of memers. And that brings us to the next card, Frenzied Fellwing. Now, this was the subject of the story, and one of the things that we were talking about was, well, why would I want to run Frenzied Fellwing? It's not very good. And turns out that decks that contain Frenzied Fellwing, Diamond through Legend, have a pretty good win rate with it compared to decks that don't.
That's 60.4% win rate.
Now, the thing is that the drawn win rate is a little bit lower, and generally the stat that you really want to focus on here is the deck win rate. But when looking at mulligan win rate versus drawn win rate versus deck win rate, it's very important to understand the role of the card in the deck.
Right.
What is the card do? Is it something that you are looking to stabilize with? Is it intrinsic to your game plan? Is it a finisher? Is it a tech card? And that will alter the stat profile of it considerably. So Frenzied Fellwing is a mana cheat high roll. So generally speaking, you want to have it in your hand earlier because it has a lot more value earlier in the game. You'll play like your Buccaneer, Parachute Brigand, and Patches, and you can get Frenzied Fellwing out as early as turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
Alternatively, if you have a slower start, generally you can get it out on turn 3. You want to be getting Frenzied Fellwing out within the first 3 turns. So the drawn win rate is lower on the card than the mulligan win rate because generally speaking, while you may not want to keep it in the mulligan depending on the makeup of your hand, it's a high roll mana cheat card, and it turns out that that's how the deck operates, right? You vomit out a lot of stats in the first couple turns, and then you kind of overwhelm your opponent and then finish them off with slapping them in the face with a fish. So Frenzied Fellwing was, I know, very very high level gameplay. So Frenzied Fellwing is something that
And
maybe
a good
you were reluctant
IRC reference.
to play, but it may very well be the best performing card once you take out the outliers. Now we can filter just by legend. I will note that it decreases the sample size considerably, and it will change. So we'll do that really quickly here. Actually, we still see it's the second highest card after the TGT Buck. So it's still the highest win rate card, although it does decrease. Decks tend to decrease in win rate when you're looking at the narrower field like Legend. You see that in Standard too. So it's an interesting kind of statistic here that, is it really the best card in the deck? Maybe, maybe not. But what this does show, it gives us a clue that this card is a good performer as opposed to, say, Cutlass Courier, which Nate was running and I didn't approve, which, it still has a decent win rate, but quite a bit lower than Frenzied Fellwing. And when you look at cards that are performing better than Cutlass Courier, we see things like South Sea Captain, which was kind of like our 30th card, or Fog Sail Freebooter, which is something that we considered subbing in for Captain. So right away, you're taking out something that's performing worse than your 30th card and putting in something that's performing a lot better. You might find yourself having a better time. And perhaps, Nate, and I don't want to speak out of school here, maybe one of the reasons why you didn't like Frenzied Fellwing is because, like you said, it kind of plays outside the pirate synergy. But I also think that maybe you weren't clued into the role of the card, right?
I agree.
And it's not that I have any deep knowledge or insight. It just so happens that I like to play aggro priest, with which Frenzied Fellwing was a key part of. So it's something that I've used quite a bit. And Aggro Priest is not a deck that you've spent a lot of time with. Because, it's cool, but it was always kind of a little bit of a slightly worse performer. So, anyways, so we replaced Cutlass Courier with Frenzied Fellwing. The other card is Amalgam of the Deep. Again, it's kind of in this bottom tier. So we're looking at our 30th cards in the deck, and this is still performing worse than that. And we replaced Amalgam of the Deep with, was it just Captain?
Yes. Yeah. It was with Captain. And I think we had seen a couple people recommend Captain. One was Lasagna, one was Alb. And there was so much. This is where I think the meta call comes into place a little bit, because there were so many mirrors. What the thing that's terrifying about playing this Fish Rogue deck is that you amass this giant board very quickly of 1 health minions, and all it takes is a puffer fist to like blow out your entire board. And so getting that extra little bit of health is really beneficial. Getting the extra bit of attack is really kind of nice. There were a couple of times that I ended up with exact lethal because of the Captain. Now, again, you could run other cards instead of that. You know, maybe you try Freeboot or something. But this is a good guide, I think. And there's some meta decisions to be made. It's kind of funny looking at the stats here, because the top 2 performing cards in the deck just so happen to be 0 mana 3/3s.
Yeah, right. Mana cheat wins in Hearthstone.
So a couple of other things to note is that keen observers might be saying, well, all this is, doesn't mean anything, because look at Secret Passage. 55% win rate, it's really low. And that's one of the best cards ever made. But again, this is where, that corny expression of universal laws for lackeys and context is for kings comes in. Because universal law would say low percentage, bad card. But the context here is, what are we using Secret Passage for? So every deck, okay, regardless of whether you're running Frenzied Fellwing, Cutlass Courier, or Smothering Starfish, is going to run Secret Passage. So the university, I can't speak English. The universal include kind of could alter the data, but think about when you play Passage. If you're going to blow the person out on the first couple turns with Fellwing and Swordfish and all that, you're probably not going to Passage. You're playing Passage when you're digging for an answer or trying to scam the game. And so, sometimes you'll find the answer and other times you won't. So generally you're playing Passage when the game goes long. With aggro decks, right? Cards that kind of tend to go late are going to perform worse. And you'll see the opposite in control decks. And sometimes you won't find the answer. But just because this is a 55%, or 55.9% win rate card, doesn't mean you're not going to want to include it. Whereas Deadly Poison,
is that as relevant because you're looking at the deck win rate instead of the like drawn or played win rate in that one? I think what you were kind of saying earlier with the deck win rate being so low is more a symptom of the in% of decks aspect, which is that 82%, and less a symptom of the, like when are you playing Secret Passage kind of in that aspect. It's more that it's in 82% of decks in that case, because it's in everything. It's in Pirate Rogue, it's in Odd Rogue, and it's in all of these different archetypes that are not performing as high as the Pirate Rogue, for example, which is then making its deck win rate percentage significantly lower.
I mean, you'll see a similar kind of, you'll see it be on the bottom, and I'm looking at standard right now. So we can look at decks, Rogue, and it's not going to be the exact list just because the ones that are kind of registering the most data are trending different cards. Where is Wild? Wild is on the left. I must be missing it. Here it is, ranked Wild. We'll take Diamond through Legend, and we'll just take this. So this version with Lotheb and Smothering Starfish has the most games played. So if we look at drawn win rate, Secret Passage is kind of in the bottom quartile. So that'll be pretty common.
And drawn and played win rate, I think, are definitely more kind of accurate to what you were saying there, which is not to negate your what your assertion was. It's just drawn win rate versus deck win rate.
I mean, cards that
Discrepancy there.
cards in an aggro deck that you're gonna play later in the game are gonna naturally have a lower win rate.
Exactly.
And cards that you're gonna play in an aggro deck towards the start are gonna have a natural higher win rate. You need to be able to understand that context when looking at this. Whereas in control decks, it's the inverse, right? You know, your greedy kind of late game value engine or game plan will tend to have higher win rates because those are the pieces you're digging for if the game gets that long. So that is an important point to make.
And the exception that proves the rule is patches.
Yep.
You will play him early, but you don't want to be drawing him.
I'm not even going to address patches, but an interesting card that I think warrants maybe a poke is Mistress Smite. So Mistress Smite kind of shows us why we don't look at played win rate. A lot of people will be like, card has a high played win rate, therefore it's good. Well, that could be something to consider, but when you think about Smite, right, or Leroy Jenkins,
it's the Leroy effect for sure.
Yeah. You play Leroy usually to close out the game, and you hold on to Leroy until such time that you're ready to play him. So here Smite has a 75% played win rate, because you're not always winning the game when you play him. That's why he's so much better than Leroy, because you can tempo him out in certain situations. But, you know, the drawn win rate, it's still pretty high. Let's not kid ourselves. Smite's a busted card. I was mistaken for not having faith in Smite when he was printed and had to later atone by crafting him in gold. I've made my penance, but I mean, you can see big discrepancies here because generally speaking, you're going to play him and win the game. So generally when looking at the deck pane, I like to look at drawn win rate. Yeah. Obviously, if you're trying to understand what to mulligan for, you look at the mulligan win rate. Although be careful, low data, win rate might be inaccurate. You're probably not keeping Smite in the mulligan, whereas you are with, you know, Fillet Fighter, Brigand, and Buck. But, you know, so important to take that data point.
Hey, look at sorry to interrupt, but look at Patch's kept win rate percent.
Zero. On one of the other decks we were looking at, it said 1.1%.
I mean, people go AFK for them all, or you know what? People, if you're playing on mobile, your game crashes, and then you get back in, you've missed your mulligan. Like it happens. Like it's not always.
That happens to me.
And it happens more on mobile. But you know, when thinking about Deadly Poison, which is a card you'd want to play the turn you play your Swordfish or immediately after, you know, this is pretty damning of Deadly Poison because the deck win rate's considerably low, as is the mull win rate, as is the drawn win rate. And you know, Deadly is not something you want to be playing to close out the game like a Passage or an Eviscerate. It's usually one of those cumulative damage modifiers. And I was a big fan of Deadly Poison. I really liked it. I liked, you know, I'm a Kingsbane player, and so like, Deadly Poison's good. You know, Fish is 4 attack. You play a Deadly Poison on it. It's now 6 attack. How could that be bad? Well, apparently it's completely unnecessary, and you're better off playing other cards like Puffer Fist, like Frenzied Felling and Dread Corsair. And this is not something I would have done, but this gave me a clue that the drop off is quite huge. Like, you know, that 1% drop off from 55 to 56, you know, where you have the tech cards of Eviscerate and Smothering Starfish is kind of huge. So it's performing worse than the late game cards. It's performing worse than the tech cards. You know, it's kind of tells us something that maybe Deadly Poison's not the play in these types of decks, and so that's a pretty interesting indicator. One thing that was explained to me, and this might be a little bit advanced, but I think it warrants review, is within the deck view, what should we look for when cutting cards? Lotheb is a great example of a card we should consider cutting from this deck, because, you know, we're not going to look at Patches because Patches is a very unique card that has its own story to tell.
Exception.
But Lotheb is 1% lower drawn win rate than Smothering Starfish, which is a very specific tech. Even Swindle, which I wouldn't recommend playing in this deck, is performing much better than Loatheb. Well, why does Loatheb perform poorly in this deck? Well, by turn 5, you're looking to close out the game, not stall for a turn. The longer the game goes with this type of deck, the worse that you're going to do. And Loatheb's heavy. Dread Corsair and Frenzied Fellwing are very strong because you're oftentimes not paying mana for them. Lets you go wide and cheat things out. So looking at this, I think Loatheb is definitely the cut. I was getting Nate to cut Cutlass Courier and Amalgam of the Deep. Those are performing considerably better in this list than Loatheb. And obviously, if you go back to the cards, it's supported here as well. So, these are things that you can look at and kind of begin to put puzzle pieces together to maybe make those determinations. But data changes frequently. Even in the time that Nate and I did this review till now, the meta's adapted and evolved. We get more data, so there's going to be variance and it normalizes. So things can change, but like definitely if you're playing aggro rogue, you definitely want to be running Frenzied Fellwing. You definitely want to be running Dread Corsair, and you definitely want to be running Pufferfist. They're not in all the lists. Those are very high performing cards.
Yep.
And empirically, our experience, I think, indicated that as well. Pufferfist, just as a tangent, for those who know me or have seen my stream, know how I feel about Defias Cannoneer, at least when it's played against me. I'm totally cool with it when I'm playing it. It makes me bitterly angry because it's so annoying. Pufferfist is way better than Defias Cannoneer. So
that's a bold statement.
It is. Especially now that Pirate Warrior's been gutted. But think about it. There's no RNG and it hits everything. I mean, how many board states have you lost because you just kind of set up a Pufferfist and then dome them with the fish and then just clear the board? And the damage goes face every time too. It's just a really strong card, and this is post nerf. Remember, patch 2303 was after Pufferfist got nerfed. This was a 3/4.
Right.
Out of control. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna pause there. I think that there's definitely more that you can deep dive on, and I feel like I'm teaching chemistry right now because I hated chemistry because the teacher would always give the disclaimer, like in college and high school, we're teaching it to you wrong. It's like, well, why would you do that? Because when you start to peel the onion back, it can get a little bit more complex. And some of the best players like Corbett and NHL, NJ, they use this resource religiously. They spend almost as much time scouring through the data than they do playing the game. They're looking for trends, they're looking for outliers, they're looking for ways to optimize. And it's a shame that we don't have more data, but there's still so much value to be gleaned from this. And I think that definitely there's some stories to be told. Hydra, you were running Fog Sail Freebooter, and we weren't sure, is that a good include? Turns out it's pretty good, so and the data supports that, and your 17-2 record definitely qualitatively and empirically supports it. So there's definitely you can use this for validation, you can use this to course correct, and sometimes you'll look at it and you'll say, you know what, I don't care, I'm going with my gut. Sometimes that's correct as well. This isn't definitive. This is a variable in a broad equation.
Speaking of I don't care, I'm gonna play it anyways. I tried a version of this with Maestra to mess with my opponents, and long story short, it was the first card that was cut from the deck.
Well, that's the fun factor. You can't. And you got me. So I queued into you, Nate, and you came up as warrior, and like this is when like a bunch of people were like, nah, I don't like rogue. I'm gonna queue up odd warrior, and I'll show you. And I was convinced you were odd warrior, and I was raging on stream. I'm like, if Nate's playing odd warrior, I'm unfriending him. Like, I'm not gonna take this. And then first turn, I saw like the swoopy animation, from Maestra, and I was like, oh, he's just a rogue, and I kind of breathed a sigh of relief.
And who won
but
that
it
game?
Got me. I think I did.
You did.
Barely. But I was like, I I was full on rager.
I will say
playing Odd Warrior, like
that's great. I will say that the fun factor is there. We were seeing so much again. It was a roughly 40% rogue the entire climb. That the thought was, I saw the reason I added it. I saw it in one of the lists from China, was that like that's fun. That's big brain. Like you mess with your opponent or make them mulligan wrong. But as it turns out, when you're playing against 40% rogue and you're including the bad card in your deck, like that means that your opponent has one more better card than you do. And I will say I've drew patches about a dozen times and only drew Maestra like once. And so I never punished, but
46.4% draw and win rate in this list, which had the most plays. And do they do draw and win rate in this view? They do. Where is patches on here?
It's in the middle somewhere. Where patches was not as bad to draw playing Pirate Warrior is 40. Like, you draw patches playing Questline Warrior, like you can drop it and it counts towards your quest completion. Yeah. But in Rogue, it's just terrible. I mean, if you have a cannon out, it helps a little bit. But
you don't want it. You don't want patches, especially when there's so many mirrors and that extra body on the board is so relevant. But it's brutal. I don't know if you wanted to. So I kind of wanted to talk through this because it was the example we used. But if there's another class or deck, we can maybe look at it in real time and see if there are any insights we can glean from that really quickly before we wrap.
I think that'll be really helpful in general, because I think that Pirate Rogue has been a really good teaching tool for this, because it is the predominant archetype in that class. Kind of, I think what my question is whenever we're looking at something that has a little bit more of deck diversity within a class, or I love me some aggro druid, right? If we're looking at something that is the minority in a class, like how can we use this tool in those situations? Like I said, Pirate Rogue, fantastic. Here's how you use the tool, but how can we use it in different circumstances as well?
So, I mean, there's no easy answer for that. We'll have a look at this in a second, but here's the hard truth. There are very few people piloting aggro druid on ladder, which is probably something I should personally try to rectify. There may not be enough data. And so, oftentimes Corb will play a deck that he's interested in to garner interest to get more data. Now, he did play some aggro druid on ladder, so maybe we'll see some things here. So let's have a look, but we may not be able to make any determinations from that. So I've filtered the druid class by card since the last patch, Diamond through Legend, on Wild. So I'm going to sort by deck win rate. And what we can see here are the top cards are Diremul, which is played in Beast Druid, which was pretty popular before this patch, and Mark of Yasharaj. But look at the times played. A couple hundred,
super
right?
low sample size. Yeah.
So if we then go down and we see the other druid cards like Frost Saber Matriarch, Nerebar Weblord, and we see some of the control cards like Line Cracker. So I'm kind of going way down here to get to a card we know is aggro druid, right? Even Mark of the Lotus is a beast druid card, as well as composting. So if we scroll, we see Oracle of Elune. Some aggro druid lists run it, but it's probably mostly beast druid that's calling this up. Same thing with Druid of the Reef. We've got Arbor
Same thing
up.
with Arbor up. Yeah.
Crab Rider. So Crab Rider may be the first aggro druid card that we see truly and for real, and because you're not running it in beast druid, and it's probably the best card. Interestingly enough, its win rate is 52.3%. So right away, and only 360 times played. So I think that it wouldn't shock you to hear that Crab Rider is the best card in the deck. But these numbers are really low. Does that mean aggro druid is bad, or is it that it's not being played? I think at this point you don't have enough data to quantifiably make a determination on that. You have to go with your gut. Tunnel Trog is another aggro druid card. 52%, and we keep going down. Drekthar, probably an aggro druid card.
Oh yeah.
50, but like these are very depressed win rates. Southsea Deckhand, 51, 420 times played, and that's diamond through legend, by the way. If I
Right.
filtered on legend, all these would probably disappear. So I think that to answer your question, there's just not enough data to make that determination. I think that really the question that one needs to be asking with aggro druid is it ladder viable? Should people be playing it? And I don't know the answer. I think that more people probably should play it than are, but let's be real. There are very few aggro druid enthusiasts out there that will opt to play this over the optimal aggro deck, you being the exception. Even me. Like if I was gonna play a deck that I'm interested in, I probably would have played more Mech Mage, but I was like, forget that. I just want to win games, and so I went to Rogue. I'm part of the problem, is what I'm trying to say. So a lot of people don't have courage to play what they like, and this deck tends to have fewer enthusiasts. But I think that it's a shame, because I can't really answer your question based on what we see here. Although it's interesting that Deckhand, Drekthar, and Trog and Crab Rider seem to be some of the best cards. That probably doesn't come as such a big shock to you.
No, it doesn't. No, it definitely doesn't. And honestly, there's the Claw Fury Adept. The way that the matchup against Pirate Rogue ends up typically going, it doesn't really surprise me that the win rates and play rates of the aggro druid signifiers are so low, because that's not a particularly favorable matchup, and the Pirate Rogue deck has been the one that's been the really popular deck to play. So people haven't been playing, honestly, myself included, haven't been playing as much aggro druid as usual.
Biggin, though. You made a comment earlier. I don't know if it was before we went live with the show, but you're like, you got to really get your Embiggen. That's your game plan. Even though it has that small sample, look how high the Mulligan win rate is, 57.1%. So it's like you getting big in that opening hand, and even though the deck, it's outperforming the cards in the deck here by like over 5%. That's kind of a big tell.
Mm-hmm.
So you were spot on.
That is how you win those.
the data seems to be supporting your hypothesis, and so if you're drawing Embiggen, then you're doing pretty good. And if you're not, you're not. But I mean, but who knows? Like it's we're not even talking about 1,000 games. Like it's so little. It almost doesn't even provide the value. I mean, the lower the number, the bigger the variance, and the bigger the variance, the less confident we can be in the story that this is telling us. So we have to really be more reliant on that empirical or qualitative assessment, your play experience, in other words.
Yeah. So the small sample size there nods to that being, my hypothesis being correct, but it doesn't empirically prove it because that sample size is small. I follow.
Look how Calfast dropped off 820 plays since the patch.
Wow.
It is.
I saw a couple people like trying it still, but yeah.
I think I thought it was hot garbage, but apparently there's a place for it potentially. Not as like your deck's game plan, but as just a value engine to get you over that mid-game hump.
I mean,
I saw Jordan playing it, and he kind of sold me on it after I saw him play a few games with it. So
it's typical for everyone to just drop the recently nerfed card, right?
Yeah.
Card, let's not play it anymore.
With the exception of Pufferfist.
Yes. I do have a follow-up question that may be valuable for some of our listeners, and that how could I use this data potentially to determine what deck I should be climbing with in general? If I'm looking to climb, you say I'm just a filthy tryhard, I just want to hit legend like you or like me, rather than play something, I would love to play something fun, but I'd rather win because winning is fun, and get tired of losing with my homebrew janky decks over and over. So say I'm looking for something to climb with. I mean, I know you always have Vicious Syndicate, you always have Tempo Storm to tell you what, are the tier 1, tier 2 decks, but if I'm using HSReplay data to, like, how can I use that to pick a deck to climb with?
So, especially after a patch first comes out, you're not going to really have any data. That's why there's a lot of people that love patch day or like new expansion day, because you can't be a filthy net decker and you kind of just have to go by the seat of your pants. So what I would do is I would go to the decks tab, and I would filter by the current patch. I would start with Diamond through Legend in rank range. Obviously, we're going to want to select Ranked Wild. And I have all decks represented here. I'll just sort on win rate. So looking at win rate, just Diamond through Legend since the last patch. Top deck is Aggro Rogue with a 69.1% win rate. We'll flip to Legend in a second. That will change things. Now remember, 460 game Aggro Rogue, and this is a list that runs one Eviscerate. Weird. But
Curious.
Aggro Rogue, like, we're not looking at the specific cards, we're just looking at archetype. Second one is Even Warlock. This doesn't surprise me a whole lot because Even Warlock has game into a lot of different decks, and it has the new high roll, Sea Devil Stinger into frickin' Gigafin, which is like so gross. So I mean, Even Lock doing pretty good. Not a shocker. Then we have another flavor of Aggro Rogue. I'm really surprised by this. Next we have Mech Mage.
That's awesome.
Whoa.
And this looks like the list that Corbett made, which was a little different than the one that I've been pushing, but honestly, it effectively may as well be the same. So Mech Mage, more Aggro Rogue.
Reno
Paladin, which a lot of people have been saying best Reno deck, and I think this it's not definitive but supports it. More rogue, and so this is where you can start to say, like, all right, we've looked at like the top 10 decks, and like you see rogue represented multiple times,
And the same archetype of rogue too.
Now people will say, detractors will say, well, HSReplay collects data from Hearthstone players, and Hearthstone players are bad, so decks that are easy to pilot will generally float to the top. I don't know what to think of that. I do think that there's certainly that element, but I mean, so I'll just out the person who said that. It's Jack, a player that I respect and one that I would call a mentor of mine.
Mm-hmm.
But my counter to that would be, well, that might be true for you, Jack. You're sitting at like rank 10 right now. You're probably right. But, bad players are playing other bad players relative to these decks. The win rates will be comparable. The data normalizes is what I'm trying to say. But, is there enough of that data to normalize it to a point that will remove the variance? So I'm going to sort by legend. We're going to do win rate here. So this is just legend. And, Reno Paladin, Mech Mage, Rogue. This is really interesting. Frog Shaman.
Wow, wasn't even on the radar earlier.
Well,
now
trends start at the top and work their way down. So you've got, Corb and Ogre and NHL that have been pushing the archetype. Tulio, I'm sure I'm leaving some people out, but they've been doing well with it, and it hasn't caught on yet. It's also tricky to pilot. And then the next like 5 lists are rogues. Even at Legend, rogues doing pretty good.
And would you say that they have their kind of their own pocket meta up there that's sort of helping that?
No,
No?
the thing about pocket meta is no, because one, they played these decks to get to Legend, and I don't know how much Legend ladder they've been grinding. NHL a little bit. Pocket meta is really just a euphemism for queuing into the same person over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, once you hit a certain place in the ladder, like let's say top 50, probably more like top 15, you're just going to queue into the same person over and over again. And usually if I know I'm queuing into Hydra and Nate over and over again, Nate's a filthy aggro noob. He's going to be playing aggro rogue if I see a rogue. And Hydra's, I don't know, likes to play free shaman. So I'll know that you can start to recognize the players, and if you're queuing into this person, they're active. That's what a pocket meta is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that does happen. You'll see like decks like Quest Mage will perform really well into like Druid, and so if you're queuing into like Triple Lift or a Druid Enjoyer, then maybe you should queue that. But that there's not enough games to affect the data to the extent that it would show up on here. I mean, showing wild decks with at least 5 unique pilots and 200 recorded games. That what you call a pocket meta will not even show up on here because it won't meet this criteria of 5 pilots with 200 games.
Yeah. So to yes and that, we're looking at Legend in particular, right? This is since the 23.0.3 patch, which happened on the 26th of April. So since we're not stratifying by a higher Legend rank, you're definitely not going to be seeing kind of a pocket meta. And in Wild, since top 1K is about a quarter of those who are in Legend, you're not running into as much of that kind of pocket meta where you're facing the same people multiple times as you would necessarily do in Standard. So you don't kind of get that break point with that top 1K Legend, which is the highest stratification that Hearthstone Replay offers. So we won't see as much of that stratification with the HSReplay data in Wild in particular.
I think that the whole pocket meta thing is kind of like something that you'll hear certain streamers talk about, and it's very narrow in its application. But to answer your question specifically, go to decks, sort by Diamond through Legend, last patch, Wild, sort by win rate, and just kind of go down the list. Be cognizant of games relative to win rate, number of variants that show up, and then flip from Diamond through Legend to Legend. If I hit top 1,000, you're not going to get enough data, which is interesting because are there even 1,000 Legends since this? But apparently there are, because look at how the data's changed. When I hit top 1,000 Legend, all I see is Frog Shaman and Rogue, which is kind of interesting. But this could give you a pretty good idea. So Aggro Rogue, even Warlock, Frog Shaman, Reno Paladin, Mech Mage. Maybe I just had a bad beat with it, and it's looking pretty good, especially into Rogue. So maybe it is, Rogue can high roll. It's possible that I got high rolled 3 times and said nuts to that. And Slow Druid all look like viable ladder decks. I'm sure there are more. I think Mech Paladin is probably pretty good. Hasn't quite caught on yet. Definitely. But just looking at this, those are some of the decks, and I think given our experience on ladder, that lines up pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, I want to just really quickly put a disclaimer that I am far from an expert on this. I am but a novice. I for the longest time I avoided this because I couldn't be bothered with it. But I was personally inspired by looking at people who use the resource and have been able to find that kind of meta breaker or be that trendsetter. And NHL kind of has been doing a lot to refine and popularize Frog Shaman. Part of that input that gave him the inspiration was seeing how the data at a very low sample was looking promising. So there are people who use it to much greater effect, and I think that if there's an advanced person kind of listening to this thinking like, well, there are probably more specifics we can dive into, absolutely. This is only just the tip of the iceberg and merely serves as an introduction from someone who is but a recent adopter of the platform, kind of looking at it in this view, i.e. me. So just want to put that disclaimer out there. There's definitely a lot more layers to it, but I think that just goes to show that you can get out a lot if you're willing to put it in, and definitely I think it will make you a better player, because while it won't impact your decision making or stop you from misplaying, because I do that all the time still, what it will do is give you better knowledge of the decks and metagame, and that knowledge is something you can use to your advantage. Again, context being for kings.
I love it. I think this is wonderful, though, and I appreciate you taking the time to go through this for us, especially. I mean, I think a top level view, and really what I think we got was greater than that, but it's good to kind of understand. I mean, it's an incredible resource that we have available to us, and I saw in my climb in particular that, if I'm playing and I'm not making any real noticeable, like, terrible misplays or whatever, well, what could I do to increase this? And I feel like I'm not just drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, I swapped out the cards that were not performing very well for the cards that were performing better, and my win rate, like, significantly increased. And so it just seems like such a valuable tool. And when we're exploring a new archetype, I remember this happening when Fractured and Alter, or was it the Alterac stuff came out, and Freeze Shaman was back on the menu, and we
back on the menu. You mean on the menu for the first time?
No, yeah, well, yeah, I ended up with a golden Murabi out of the deal. Yes,
I said his day would come. It never did.
But we were what is the word? Aggregating, collecting lists of decks, and there must have been 100+ variants of Freeze Shaman, and we see. I mean, Freeze Shaman is kind of your tech W list, but I think that we're seeing that same thing right now with Fish Rogue, where there's 100 different versions of this deck, and each one is 2 or 3 cards different, but yeah, there's the same core. And then seeing, all right, well, how do we take this to the next level is very interesting. Anyways,
and the right answer isn't static; it will change.
Oh, absolutely.
And who knows? Maybe Cutlass Courier will be right, depending on how the metagame shifts. Right now, if Shaman and Big Priest come back, then Smothering Starfish might be correct. When we were playing the deck, it certainly wasn't, but that's going to change, and that's having that meta appreciation can really help. You're going to have to probably publish a list of, like, redactions and corrections next week when our buddies listen to this and point out what I didn't quite get right. But I think that conceptually, as a generality, like, that's the way to approach it and think about it, even if maybe some of the specifics are suboptimal that I shared. And I just want to, again, big disclaimer that the data is not definitive. It's just a piece of the puzzle. And there's different ways that you can interpret that data, right? So and having that comfort and being able to understand what you're reading is really kind of the key.
I love it. Well, thank you again. I appreciate the hard work that you put in. Someone in chat mentioned it was like watching a TED Talk, and that's kind of how it felt to me. This is stuff that has, frankly, kind of been intimidating for me. It's like, where do I start? I'm not a math science person. I mean, I went to law school. Like, I do well with abstract concepts and artwork and gray areas, and so when we start getting into science and data, I struggle with it a little bit more. And so I see nothing but numbers here everywhere, and it's like it's that meme of the numbers flashing in front of my eyes, and I kind of glaze over a little bit. And I want to compliment your ability to be succinct and make this. It felt very informative. But also very interesting, and I feel like I have a better read on how to navigate it, at least at a better level than I had previously. So thank you kindly.
And thank you, Sheep, for validating and interjecting, because despite the way that I speak about it, my confidence level with this is not super high, because to your point, Nate, there's a lot there. It's intimidating, and there's a lot of a lot of insights that one can glean from it. And sometimes you can take away the wrong thing, and having someone to kind of bounce it off of, or a sanity check is very important.
Mhm. Yeah, always fun to dive into the data together.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I mean, that kind of wraps up our main topic here. We do have a weekly challenge to revisit from last week. So while Sheep was out moving cross country, Schmoopy Daddy graced us with his presence. It was very fun hanging out, and we let him take over the weekly challenges. And so last week's weekly challenge, as he is a prolific achievement hunter, was to find a way to help achieve the fishing minigame quest here. Is how can I finish this in the quickest way possible? And let me see here. I thought I had the little graphic up on the screen, and maybe I lost it. I am definitely not a achievement hunter in that sense. I'll do them every once in a while, but not in the same level. Anyhow, so the challenge here, looking at the achievement, it's called Fishing Minigame. It's the the Nat Pagel one over here, and here, let me see. Yeah, here we go. I can drop it onto the screen here. So Shmoopy wants help, someone to make him a deck to finish the fishing minigame achievement as quickly and painlessly as possible. Come up with the best idea. The fishing minigame says draw 20 cards that didn't start in your deck with Gone Fishing, and then there's 3 different layers of this ranked challenge here. Anyhow, so I told Shmoopy, like, all right, fine, you want to do this? I appreciate it. Like, it's great you come up with the challenge, but you got to help us judge it, because I will need help with that there. And so he's done that. We had a handful of people participate and tinker around with some various deck lists, and the ultimate winner, which probably is a surprise to nobody at this point, is Ulticon, who's been our reigning champ the last several weeks with this rogue deck here. Who had found a way to really kind of big brain it. There's an explanation that I was given here, and it's in our it's in the Discord under the weekly challenge section here. I can pull it up real quick.
I mean, I figure, like, when you break your Kingsbane, that becomes a copy, right?
Well,
and
this is
into your deck.
This is the classic Concerned Mom deck, right? So this is running Major Domo with Tess and Kingsbane, and so you become Rag, and then you combo Tess to draw Kingsbane shuffles back in. So there's the big brain combo there. Probably explaining that very poorly. It's very fun to watch one of the better players pilot this deck. Concerned Mom was running this for ages on ladder, and was like actually very, very good with what I thought was a meme deck.
It's so fun to play, except
right?
for when people like purposely know what you're doing and they'll like play it out even though they know they've lost.
The games, yeah, the games
they can go on forever.
Yes.
How long can this go on?
If they're
That's
stubborn.
what the deck does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But part of it with these achievements is that you have to play them on ladder. So I think part of the the interesting piece with this one is that you can actually win games with it. So there you have it. Well, congrats to Ulticon, who is our current reigning champ as well. I think it's been at least 3 weeks in a row that Ulticon has won these challenges. So GG's, congrats. We'll reach out and get a couple of packs on us. So congrats. Thank you for participating. Thank you to everyone else. I believe Kenray had some great ideas, and a few other people as well. I can't think of off the top of my head. Gobbledygook, I think, was one, and maybe a couple others. But anyways, yeah, thank you much. And Now here's the fun part: watching us all fumble through trying to figure out one for this week, because this is my weak point here. I love doing these and never really know what to challenge people to do. We haven't done in a long time, and I don't
that?
like. one of the very simple challenges, what is the biggest minion you can get? What is the biggest weapon? We've been talking a lot about the fish rogue lately. I wonder, we've done biggest Kingsbane, we've done most attack with Demon Hunter, but I wonder how big of an attack you could get on a swordfish as a rogue would be.
Biggest fish.
Biggest fish, yeah.
And if
like
you can
that.
Photoshop yourself holding up the fish, you get bonus points.
There's some ways, but it's easy to throw a deadly poison on the fish. My question is, what else can you do? What else can you do? And by the way, pour one out for our good friend Nitro Boost poison.
Well, I think we know why they didn't revert it at this point. So I mean,
wow, talk about 30th card. that would have gone in so fast. But anyways, if nobody objects, I will say, what is the largest swordfish that you can get? Primarily looking at attack, but if there's any sort of tie, I've fallen. Just attack and durability. So yeah,
Love it.
It's simple, a nice simple one for a change. So my ability to big brain is kind of waning after a long work week, and so here's a nice smooth brain challenge.
Yeah, if you guys want to participate in this, all these challenges can be played in casual or on ladder, but not against a friend or against the innkeeper. We don't want you to tank your rank, but we don't want things to be too easy. So your friends will let you win, the innkeeper will let you win. So casual or ladder is your best place to do these things. And I mean, casual's probably your best choice, but if actually, you know what? Hey, this is already probably one of the best decks on ladder, so why not give it a shot on ladder? People are going to be wondering what you're doing, throwing in suboptimal cards, buffing your weapon, as we actually saw from the amazing lesson from Blutrane. But what you can do is you can post your screenshots of your biggest fish in our weekly challenges channel on the Discord. The winner will be announced on next week's show, and will receive 2 Hearthstone packs on us and be immortalized in the Hall of Fame on the Born to Be Wild website. Looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all very much for being here. Thank you to everybody in chat who's been watching and chatting with us and hanging out. Really appreciate the company. Thank you very, very, very much to Blutrane for joining us tonight and hanging out and sharing your knowledge with us. I think I was so excited to talk about this, just to learn, because this is something new to me. The kind of idea sparked, like, this better than I do, and this really helped me. Can you share it with other people? Maybe it will help, and I think it really will. We were just seeing it in chat as we're watching, and like, you got a lot of fans tonight, and so I really appreciate it. I think everyone else does as well. So thank you again for hanging out and imbuing some knowledge.
It's always a pleasure to join you guys. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. One final thing, just one more nod. The listener series is starting in a little over a week. Signups end a week from tomorrow. Saturday, May 14th. So if you're interested in participating, it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, we're doing different stuff than we've done in the past. Please take a moment to check it out. Again, go to our website, borntobewildhs.com, click on the listener series page. All the info is there. The schedule, the rules and the different challenges and all that stuff. And so if you've got any questions, you can reach out to us in the Discord. Be happy to chat more. All right. Well, that is it from us for the show proper. We may hang out and play some games. I'm not quite sure yet, but thank you all again. And we'll see you all next week on another episode of Born to Be Wild.
Beep bop, beep bop, beep doop bop.
Job's done.
Bye, everybody.
I need to cue that sound up because I wanted to say, or to be wild. Or the I swear I had it, and I can't find it anymore. But
Whoops.
anyways, I found the perfect sound to end the show on.
That's so much better than what.
It's much better.
Perfect.